struggling to communicate with your spouse? Is it getting harder and harder to have productive conversations? Are your simplest things turning into arguments? These communication struggles must be addressed as soon as possible if you do not want them to hurt your marriage. Join me and let's talk about how you can turn your struggling communication into connecting conversations. First, if you are struggling to communicate with your spouse, I just want to start by saying nothing's wrong with you. Struggling to communicate with your spouse, this is to be expected. This is the beauty of marriage, is that it's going to offer us challenges and struggles so that we can grow. So please know as we go through this, nothing's wrong with you. This is just an opportunity for you to grow in your marriage and as an individual. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the steps to take. The first step to take is to get specific about what is your communication struggle. There's lots and lots of different communication struggles, like, shutting down and stonewalling. That is one communication struggle. A lack of prioritizing time to talk with each other. Differences in communication styles. Maybe one of you is avoidant style and one of you is an anxious style. You don't know how to have open and honest conversations. That's a communication struggle. Maybe your communication is critical and defensive. That's a communication struggle. Maybe there's an inability to resolve conflicts. Maybe conversations go round and round and they just end in frustration. Maybe you don't know how to talk about uncomfortable things, or one of you doesn't like to talk about uncomfortable things. Maybe you don't know how to reconcile conversation where at the end of the conversation you feel closer than when you began. Maybe you really don't know how to hear each other, or past hurts keep coming up. Each of these are different types of communication struggles, and the more specific you can get about what your struggles are, the easier it's going to be to address the specific issues that you're having. Now, before we go on, I want to check in. Is this resonating with you? Are you recognizing that you have no idea what your struggles are, or you feel like the struggles I've just listed, maybe you have every one of them? If that's you, you are not alone, and I have something to share with you that can seriously change your marriage and really help you work through these communication struggles. It is called the Marriage Growth Community, and I want to invite you to join me. In there, I'm going to give you the tools, I'm going to coach you, and you're going to have community support wherever you're stuck. We're going to get specific about what your communication struggle is and help you start taking the steps to address it, so what once was a struggle now can become a beautiful area of growth and appreciation that you have for how much the two of you have turned your struggles into connection. So if you want to join me in the Marriage Growth Community, underneath this video is a description section. Click on that, and the first link you'll find is where you can learn more about the Marriage Growth Community. Now, it is closed membership, so if it is open right now, you want to join, because that doesn't open up very often. But if it is closed, make sure you join the wait list so you can be notified as soon as it does open. All right, your second step, once you've located your specific communication struggle, then we need to turn that into what it is that you do want, right? So take whatever struggle it is. Maybe one of you has an anxious attachment style and one of you has avoidant attachment style, and you're recognizing that. And if you don't know what that is, no problem. We didn't know for a long time either. But let's say you do know that is your communication style. And an easy way to know is that one of you wants to address the conflicts right away, and you get really anxious if you're not addressing them right away, and the other would rather avoid talking about conflicts. That's one example of a reality that one of you is anxious attachment style and the other is avoidant attachment style. So let's say that's you. And the second step is to get really clear on what it is that you do want. If one of you wasn't anxious and one of you wasn't avoidant, how could both of you grow and work on becoming a secure attachment where you actually could recognize your what's happening for you and find ways to work through them because you're secure in the relationship and you're secure in who you are and your ability to create connection in the marriage, right? When you get clear, it's really easy to focus on what we don't want. But the valuable thing is getting clear on what you do want, because the way our brains work, our brains are much more ignited when we're clear about what we do want versus when we're focused on what we don't want. And the beauty of this is if you and your spouse will get clear on what you do want, right? You can say, hey, I've noticed this area in our communication, it's just not working for me. I noticed that you want to move away when tension comes up and I want to move towards it. And I get that's not working for either of us. What I would love is for both of us to feel secure in our relationship and move towards each other. And then you find out that, well, your spouse is like, well, I would love that too. Now, all of a sudden you have a united thing that you're both working on. You're both moving towards. That feels a whole lot more empowering and life-giving than, well, I just hate it when you do this and I hate it when you do that. Right? So when you get connected to what it is that you do want, it's much easier to move towards it, right? The third step in working through communication struggles is partnering together in the small steps you can take to get there. Once you know where you want to go, then you start looking at, okay, what is one step we could take right now, today, that we both could commit to choose the next time I feel avoidant or you feel anxious or whatever. What is one step we could take to move towards security? Well, let's say that maybe you both say, well, what if we just got honest? What if we just told each other what we were feeling? Like, I'm afraid that you're not going to want to come back to this conversation. And the one with the avoidance says, well, I'm afraid that you're not going to want to hear what I have to say, or whatever I say, it's not going to matter to you. Well, great. That's a really important first step, is just to be willing to share honestly. And once you take that step, that's going to reveal the next step. And we often think, well, I've got this big problem I've got to fix in myself. No, it's a bunch of little steps that are going to lead to big things. So third step, take one small step. Get clear together on one small step. And it doesn't need to be the same step. Maybe you want to take one step and they want to take a different step. Great. At least you're both taking a step towards where you want to go. And the fourth step in working through communication struggles is recognizing that your communication struggles are an opportunity to up-level. Every conversation you're having in your marriage is an opportunity to up-level your communication struggle into a communication breakthrough, right? So every opportunity is an opportunity to grow and learn. And okay, what worked? What didn't work? What's wanted and needed? What's one next step that we can take? And as you keep up-leveling one conversation at a time, your conversations begin to become supportive. They begin to become helpful. They begin to become one more movement in the journey, right? If you start out on a road trip knowing you have 3,000 miles to drive, that feels daunting. But if you're like, you know what, we're going to stop when we get to, at 500 miles, we're going to stop and we're going to take a break. Great, I can do 500 miles. This is what each conversation can look like, right? If you're like, right now, all we do is argue every time a conversation comes up, well, you know what? What we want is we want to be able to have open and honest conversations. Great. What's one step we can take towards that? Is, well, when we get upset, let's just breathe. Let's just take a few minutes and breathe and then try the conversation again. Great. Oh, wow. All right. We tried that. Well, some of that worked, some of it didn't. Great. What can we try the next conversation? And you develop the next step. Now it becomes a journey where you start to see progress. You start to go forward moving, and that's what we want. So these are the 4 steps to work taking what is currently communication struggles into communication growth opportunities, and communication overcomes, where you're overcoming and growing through your communication. It is not that difficult when you begin to break it down into smaller steps. And again, I want to invite you into the support that's available for you. If this is what you're working towards, if this is what you want to develop in your marriage, join me in the Marriage Growth Community. You'll find the link in the description underneath this video. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know you liked it so I can create more like it. And then make sure you subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you're taking away from this video. Thanks for joining me.